I think if you can put those questions up on the board,
Sure.
that'll be very helpful. And thank you all for coming and expressing your opinions on this. Extraordinarily helpful.
So, Vice Mayor Davis, in terms of proceeding, so before you have the questions that staff has posed to the council about further direction on the ordinance. And certainly at this point, if you have any further questions of staff, we are available for that as well.
How would the council like to proceed on this? Shall we go point by point and see if there's a consensus here on
these
agenda?
issues?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would be fine with that.
All right, on the
What about everyone
definition of the employee, you start off, Scott.
I think we should use the Oakland definition. I think that it's clear, and I think it says something about our intention to honor all workers.
I agree with that, absolutely.
I agree with that, too.
Second.
Diane.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. The cap on the accrual of paid sick leave, 48 hours or 6 days, or 40/72. Distinguish between small business employers and all other employers. We'll start with you, Diane.
Michael, could you remind us what,
Sure.
could you give a little clarification on what the difference between Oakland's lift-up measure and AB 1522
Let me bring back that slide.
and what's on our draft ordinance?
Sure.
Michael, before you start,
Yes.
I just want to clarify for the audience, there will not be a decision tonight on the ordinance. This will move forward. This is just providing the framework for staff to bring forward to the community and bring back to public meetings in the business community. So this is essentially a rough draft.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. So maximum hours accruable. The Oakland ordinance provides a distinction between small businesses, which are 10 or fewer employees, and all other employers. For small businesses, those employees can earn up to 40 hours of paid sick leave a year. All other employers are, employees of all other employers can earn up to 72 hours a year. AB 1522 provides that an employee may earn up to 48 hours per year, regardless of the size of the employer. So AB 1522 doesn't make a distinction between small businesses and other businesses. The draft ordinance that we've presented to you is proposed 72 hours for all employers, regardless of the size of the employer. So we do not, the draft ordinance in your packet does not make a distinction between small business and non-small business. That term is not defined in the draft ordinance.
So I think where I land on that is I would propose, if you would entertain it, to draw a distinction between small business and bigger businesses here. However, I still want to arrive at what is a small business in Emeryville. And
Right, I think that's a discussion we need to have. Yeah.
right.
Diane, I have to agree completely with you. What Rob demonstrated with his kind of micro approach to it, we've been talking for years and years about how we want to support, encourage small business, and we got to give them a little hand here. And we don't want to make it so draconian that they either go out of business or just struggle or don't even choose to come to Emeryville in the first place. So I agree with you, Diane.
I'm supportive of that as well, that distinction. Although for me, understanding what we're going to define as a small business is very
Exactly.
important because
Exactly.
I'm not interested in chains, for example, being included under that category.
I also agree with that.
So thank you for raising that, because that then becomes the next question to the council is how do you want to define small business? If we could get some direction, is it, so again, Oakland defines it as 10 or fewer employees. if that's the metric you would like to use, or if you would, Michelle had mentioned that there are other methods of employing, of demonstrating what a small business is, and so if you could provide us some direction as to how you would like that definition.
I would be comfortable starting with the Oakland definition, knowing that this is a draft ordinance that is going out to the public and is going to get feedback, and giving staff the time to talk to the public and the various committees about the alternatives. But what's in front of me to begin with is a place to start.
There's another point I'd like to make in reference to what Jack said about she doesn't want chains. We have to be very careful about what is a chain, because
Right.
if Farley's has 3 businesses and Canfield Cafe has another installation in Oakland, they're not, in my mind, the big chains.
Right.
And we want to
No,
make
that's-
clear that we're not prohibiting those. That happened in San
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes, I know.
And we don't want to do that. We don't want to go down that road, I don't think.
So perhaps to make it clear then, as a starting point, the next iteration of this that we bring to the council would introduce the definition of small business, and we would, if I'm hearing you correctly, and we would define that as 10 or fewer employees within the city of Emeryville. So if, therefore, Farley's, for example, has multiple locations, Emeryville, Oakland, San Francisco.
But how does that affect franchises then?
Yeah, so, sorry, I just wanted to sort of interject on, as I mentioned, there are multiple definitions of small business and different organizations, so it is, the city can decide. I just wanted to bring forth a more specific, what the SBA defines it as. Now, they actually go through each industry. It's a very 46-page table of every single industry, and they define small business based on either number of employees or gross receipts, but they vary it based on that. But their sort of overall generalized definition, I think, gets to some of Councilmember Asher's concern. They define it as a business that is independently operated and owned, it's organized for profit, and it is not dominant in the field. So sort of as an initial starting point.
I would like staff to do some more work on that definition. For me, it feels like 10 or fewer is a placeholder, but I'm willing to hear. I don't need it settled right now, right? That's where I'm at.
It is exactly a placeholder, and it's going to go out into the business community, and I believe we'll hear loud and clear.
I think we're going
what
to
is a
see
small.
some people.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
I actually just wanted to pause for a moment. Did Ruth have any notes that she wanted to share with us that may impact the
What we're
bullet
discussing?
points?
Yeah, sorry. So I do have an email from the mayor, and just apologizing. She had a long scheduled excused absence. She does lay out some items that she wants to just have discussion on, but we did cover all of those in our questions that we're putting in front of you. So there's nothing in here that she says takes a specific position on,
Okay.
just lays out items that she wants to make sure you all provide clarity on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, move along.
Okay. Let me bring back. All right. There we go. Okay, this is not helping me. Hold on.
Oh, no. What were the other questions?
Are you getting it?
Can Dave give us any assistance here?
You are completely frozen.
All right. All right. Let me just orally
Very
give you
good.
the next question. Let's see. Maximum number of hours of usable paid sick leave a year. So the question is, do you want to set a limit on how many hours an employee may actually use of their paid sick leave that they've accrued per year? So as a reminder, City of Oakland's ordinance does not provide any limits. An employee is able to use up to the maximum up to the number of hours that they have banked of paid sick leave per year. The state statute provides that there is a 24-hour limit. So an employee may use only up to 24 hours of paid sick leave a year, regardless of how much that employee has banked.
You're talking about 1522.
1522 does, yes.
Oakland.
I think we should go with Oakland.
Oakland's model.
If you accrue it,
Yes.
it's yours.
Yeah.
Moving along.
All right. Next is the use of paid sick leave. So the question is who's included in the definition of family member?
The expansive one. The most expansive one is the one I'm interested in.
Agreed.
You get to designate.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with that.
Well, I don't agree with you guys, but I think it should be in there, and we should send it out into the business community to see what the impact of that type of a requirement will be. Right now, I don't have enough information to say, but always in my mind is the fact that we really want to nurture small business, and I, for one, don't want to be one to put the dagger in their throat. So we'll have it in there because you got 3 votes, but
Okay.
For me, I'm more interested in just alternative family formations and the kind of flexibility that would allow.
Okay.
But yes, I want to hear back from folks too.
All right,
Yeah.
so we'll keep it in there for the next iteration and for
Right.
further discussion. Okay, so the next question for the council is the start date for the use of paid sick leave. The Oakland Ordinance and AB 1522 provide that there is that the use of paid sick leave begins 90 days after the effective date of those particular ordinances. So the question is, would the city council like to allow employees to begin, if you remember, employees will begin to accrue paid sick leave at the rate of 1 hour for every 30 hours worked. So the question is, do you want to allow them to start using paid sick leave sooner than the 90-day mark?
And the Oakland one is the 90 days too, right? They follow
Oakland
that.
and
Same.
AB 1522
Same.
provide for a 90-day.
I propose we go along with that for the draft.
Yeah, for the draft,
See
we'll
what
do
kind of
that.
feedback
Yeah.
we get.
All right. So those are my questions. I think Michelle has had that last slide with some additional questions.
And Michael, while you're up, may I ask a question? So I saw you, perhaps you were Googling or researching tip credit
Yes.
and our labor code,
Sure.
and just to either substantiate or refute what was mentioned in public comment
No,
in regards to legality.
Absolutely. So I will also emphasize what Vice Mayor Davis had mentioned, that this is a draft ordinance, right? This is a work in progress, and there's some additional analysis that will need to be done before we provide you with the final version. With that disclaimer in mind, it's true. There is no tip credit. The Labor Code does prohibit the use of tip credit in California. I think one of the things that staff is struggling with is what to do or how to accommodate or account for the fact that employers or that employees receive tips. And I think that you were hearing some of that from some of the business representatives here tonight. I will note that the Oakland Ordinance, the Berkeley Ordinance, and the San Francisco Ordinances regarding minimum wage do not speak to tips, right? And so the idea is that regardless of whether or not an employee actually earns tips or not, there is that minimum wage that is applied. And so presumably an employee that earns tips would earn the minimum wage plus the tips that they receive as part of that employment. Right. So, I'm going to put this as sort of a placeholder for us to continue continue further research and refinement in the ordinance, and we'll have a more refined analysis for you at the next time you see this.
Moving along.
Moving along.
Okay.
So the next set of questions are from that last slide, and it specifies the issue that we were talking about, exemptions and phased implementation. So they've sort of been bunched together in this particular set of questions. And if you want to consider, and to be included in the draft ordinance that goes out, exemptions or phased implementation, if you could sort of specify one or the other for either for nonprofits, internships, training programs, small businesses, with the caveat that the definition of small business needs to be further refined. Obviously, the issue regarding businesses with tips is to be further discussed, as well as the concept of total compensation regarding businesses that also provide health benefits. And then the questions go through the implementation timeline. Sadly, we're going to have to go low tech, so if you want to see that implementation timeline, I'll flip to the paper again. And then just general changes and revisions.
Scott, you start off on this one.
Well, I just like to go to my list of other things that they talked about. Like I like the idea of the city enforcing our own, that we wouldn't.
No. Let's answer these questions first, and then we'll go on to those concerns.
Can we answer an easy one? Like, is the implementation timeline proposed by staff acceptable? Like, maybe can we start there? Because the other ones seem a little more...
Well, if we're thinking about a draft, do we want to take a hard look at the burden this places on nonprofits who are struggling anyhow? And, their grants that they get, some businesses can turn around on a dime and maybe make changes by July 1st. Nonprofits, I don't know whether that's possible. The other thing is, on the internships and the training programs, if we're really going to be doing the job I hope we're going to be doing with the Emory Unified School District, we want to encourage those internships and those part-time training availabilities. So I would very much like to see a focus on at least examining how we could do this. Not to say, no, they would never do the minimum wage, but phase it in over a longer period of time so the impact would not be so dramatic on them.
Well, I could talk about a phase-in, but for me, it's contingent upon the question of where we're landing on the wage. So that's the question I would want to go to, I think, first before we talk about the phase-ins. But I share some of your, not so much with the internships and training programs, because I work at the university and I see what happens. Like suddenly thousands of internships bloom, right? And they do not pay nearly enough for the kind of work that they're asking for. But certainly nonprofits, which are on a grant cycle, I would be interested in doing that. And also small businesses. But again, for me, it's contingent upon where we're landing for the draft. So.
And Vice Mayor, I will mention Berkeley. In Berkeley's ordinance, they have a 1-year phase-in for nonprofits, just for some context.
See, that's kind of what I'm looking for, to not just put them in some kind of rigid type place, but the ability to work their way through and work their way forward. What do you say, Diane?
I'm also open to intelligent phasing, but I'm not necessarily at this time interested in exemptions. I think for this draft ordinance, I think we should move forward without any exemptions and get the input.
Focus on phasing?
Well, I'm open to phasing, and we are a small city. This is where we can have a strength, is looking at the businesses that need our help.
Exactly.
And because we don't have a history of reaching out to these small businesses and making it easier for them to really flourish, I think now is a very good starting point where in conjunction with raising the minimum wage, we can, as a city, decide that we want to protect these businesses, that we want to see them flourish, that we want to send a message that we are not out to put everyone out of business, that we
I fully
want
agree
these
with
things
this.
to happen together. So we don't need to throw the baby out with the
May I
bathwater.
offer a couple of things? I've been talking to a few of the small businesses in town, and I agree. We talk constantly about how we want more locally owned small businesses in town, and I think it's time to commit to them that as we phase in, that the city will also ramp up to finally do something. I think we need to stop the subsidy to the chamber, and I think we need to devote our efforts to a small business liaison in town, and to make sure that we're really building up a kind of support network for them that I don't think that they have had up until this point. So in addition to, if we're going to talk about phasing, which I need to land on what the wage is, I think that we need to make this other commitment to support small businesses as they grow, and as they pay a fair wage, because I've heard from several of them, you hear them step up here, right? They want to pay a fair wage, and they want to do right by their employees.
There are things in particular about the restaurant business that I think we really need to address. They are very vulnerable, and one citation from a health standard missing, not followed up with quickly, could really put a business under. So if we're going to, we need to help small business get through a health citation and really make sure that they can do it quickly. Maybe we can do something in Emeryville that other cities can't do for restaurants. Maybe we can allow people to take their wine and beer right out on the sidewalk without having to, just have all these laws broken. And maybe our chief would say that.
Any violations, say no.
Okay, I'm just fishing out there. I'm trying to make, Emeryville has a history
A draft.
A draft, yes.
Draft beer.
Okay, Michelle, have you gotten a clear sense of direction here?
Well, we still need to. No.
So for the draft as it's written right now does not include any exemptions or phase-in. So do you want us to go ahead and put it out there without any of those items and get the feedback, and then you would adjust it from there? Or do you want to explicitly put some into the language that we send out? I think that we need some direction on that.
What will the draft look like? Yes.
So nonprofits, for example.
Well, I would support a phasing for the nonprofits and the small businesses and the internships and the training
I
programs.
still need to know what wage we're landing on to begin the conversation.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
$15 by 2018. Is that good enough?
How do we get there? What does the path look like? Because one thing that when we're talking about, and people keep saying 1443, we realize that is only $27,000 a year, right? That's all that it is. And you cannot live in Emeryville on $27,000 a year, right? We provided this handout that shows the hourly wage that a person would make in order to qualify at every income level according to area median income, right, for our housing. And you can see that this is if you get your 40-hour work week, which, good luck. Extremely low income, you would, that person makes $9.83 an hour. And we know we don't have enough units under extremely low income in Emeryville. $16.38 is very low income, right? We don't even have the housing, right? If you made $16.38 an hour. I think that when we're talking, the difference between $12.25 and $14.43 is a little less than $350 a month. And what that means, what I'm hearing from folks when they come up here is that that's health insurance, right? Or that could be after school care for your child. And lifting up the wage floor, one of the things that it does is it stops the kind of subsidizing that government and your city government, right, is providing for people who don't pay a fair wage. So when people cannot afford to send their children to after school care, but they have to work, the city's going to make a calculation and we're going to pay for that service, right? So the idea that somehow we're all lowering our costs or protecting ourselves with refusing to get to a living wage, right, on a what I would say is a really urgent timetable is not looking at the wider picture. The other thing is that low-wage workers are not taking their earnings and hiding it in, Europe somewhere. It's not happening. They're spending it immediately, right? It goes right back out into the community. Oftentimes it'll go into the places where they work, right? And the communities where they work. And so this is a way to grow the economy in a more broad-based fashion, right? With a direct effect on the lowest paid workers. Low paid workers contribute to the economy, right? They're not just taking. For me, I think that we spent a lot of time building big box. Boy, we're ringed by it. And I go in there, because I'll admit it, I shop at Target, right? I'm there too often. And I sit there and I look at the folks who are working at Target, and they don't have any protections in terms of their scheduling, right? They churn through employees. I don't know that I ever see the same folks there.
That's true.
And we're asking people to live on a wage that there's no way they could survive on in our town, right? And so we've brought this kind of business to town, and then we haven't made that business, right, pay a fair wage. Instead, we're just subsidizing it, right, through our own programming. So for me, I understand the distinction between small business, and I want small businesses in Emeryville. We need to do so much more. It's one thing I've appreciated about this conversation is sitting down with small business owners and talking about what they need from the city, and I want to do more of that. But for me, $27,000 a year it's at $14. That's still not enough to live on, and I know that people feel comforted by a regional minimum wage, but the folks got up here and told us that that was an arbitrary number, right? It was just one that they picked because they thought they could get enough political momentum behind it. And what we're arguing for is a wage that will give dignity to people, right? And allow them to not live off of subsidies and not have the city subsidize businesses in this way. Give it directly to the workers, right? And don't subsidize through the low wages of businesses. So for me, the phasing in, I'm very interested, especially if what we're talking about is $14.43, right? As the living wage. I think we need to move toward it. I mean, the idea that Bill de Blasio is only offering $13 in New York City, I don't know where that is another arbitrary number, right? That's not tied to anything. I want us to do it with a reason. And Going to 1225 is just adopting an arbitrary number because we know the arbitrary number is something that can pass politically. And I just want to have the discussion about what it really means to pay a living wage and to treat workers fairly in Emeryville. And so 1443 is where I'm landing on the wage.
Diane?
I think that's a worthy target. I think we should keep 1443 in the draft ordinance and see where it lands with the public. Because this is not the end of the discussion.
It's not, it's the draft.
This is a draft. This is, to solicit comments from those who are going to be affected. And, all of us have been contacted by businesses, and we will continue to be contacted by businesses and by workers alike. And we want to hear from businesses and workers and see how this is going to play out. And I support 1443 for the current draft.
I really like the staff proposed phase-in over that 18 months.
For
Everyone?
do you want to
Small business.
Yeah, do you want to specify?
I liked it for everyone to phase in at that rate. I also would like to have staff research something about scheduling. Look at what other cities are doing about scheduling, because a lot of restaurant workers especially work part-time. And if they cannot predict when their work is, they can't schedule other jobs. And a lot of people need to do that. And so I think also we have to address that issue, because that's a real issue that is especially true in the restaurant industry and in lower wage work. And I've just seen what happens sometimes in retail, where workers have to just stay by the phone. They can't do another job, and their current job doesn't give them enough hours. And so it's sort of like we can give somebody a higher wage, but we can make the life worse without some kind of scheduling issues in some cases. So I want the staff to look at that.
Well, one of the things, though, with raising the wage is that workers actually become more valuable, right? And then it becomes an issue of does the employer want to, is it cost effective for them to try and churn through people as opposed to creating full-time work? And so actually, as you're raising the wage floor, the thing that you're looking for, I'm looking for lots of things, by the way, but one of the things you're looking for is to create more full-time jobs. There are other things that we're looking for here in terms of giving employees more of a voice, the ability to organize or negotiate. For me, the phase-in is for everybody. I'm not sure why we would negotiate with ourselves to such a low level at this point. Instead, I think, why can't we especially talk to people, right, about the higher wage and think through some of these effects that we're talking about? Because you can make an adjustment to business models, and I also think that there's a way to preserve and protect the folks that in small businesses, in restaurants, right, in particular, with the phase-in. I don't know that big box needs a phase-in. I'm just not sure that they're needing that.
Yeah, if I could jump in and we'll move this along. Philosophically, Scott, I agree with you. I think a phased in would bring us more information coming in. However, I'm going to go along with Jack and Diane, because I think if you put that 1443 in there, you're going to get more attention from this group that you really want to pay attention to and nurture and protect. That's the small business people. This is like giving somebody an uppercut. So let's put it in the draft and see what kind of a response we get. But my inclination in the final is to go certainly with a more phased-in approach. Makes more sense all the way around. Because we are not sure that the actions that we're taking at 1443 are a benefit or a detriment. You talk about to make more full-time jobs for people. We may hear from the small business people that instead of more full-time jobs, they will be eliminated jobs. We don't know. We don't have that information. Let's move along to the next question.
So,
Do you have
so to be clear, we
You had
we are
three
putting in the
people paying
1443 with
Move it
no
along.
with no phase-in.
Right.
Got it.
No small business. So just to clarify, no small business phase-in and
No
no phase-in.
consideration for small
No
business.
consideration
That's
for
right.
nonprofits or small business.
No, that is not what I said. I said that it was contingent upon the wage. And so 1443, if that's the wage we're landing on, then certainly I'm talking about the phase-in for small businesses and for the nonprofits.
I am along with that, and again, let's come up with a strong definition for small businesses like the ones that presented tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, what else do you need, Michelle?
I have one more comment.
The timeline.
Yeah, so the implementation timeline, let me just put that up. So this was the proposed implementation timeline, and I think part of it too is there's been a lot of discussion here at the council just now about obtaining additional input from small businesses and the community. And this timeline does not have any sort of specific working groups or a specific meeting aside from a discussion of this item by the Economic Development Advisory Committee. As I indicated, the plan would be to post the draft ordinance and invite comment directly if they wanted to, anyone wanted to call us or send us letters. That would be how we would gather information rather than and feedback, as well as post it on the website, rather than having a coordinated meeting. So if you wanted to include some sort of more active
But what about March 17th? Wouldn't
Yes.
we, for example, when we send out the draft ordinance, let people know that the next meeting where we're going to discuss it is March 17th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Diane, how do you feel about the implementation schedule?
I think this is a fine schedule.
Scott, what do you say?
That looks good.
Okay, it's 3-1 because I think this is, someone who was in the audience spoke out about this and
Joyce.
said, was
It was Joyce.
Was it
Yeah.
Joyce? And I think we're asking, given everything else that's going on in the city, we are really asking our staff to go above and beyond, to stretch their limits, and it's not clear to me that the fastest is the best. And I would like to see a pushback from staff. When you say, yes, we can do this, what does that really mean? Yes, we can do this. We have all the resources we need. We have all the time. We'll get the full feedback.
I wish.
From the staff has got to learn to say no sometimes. That's all I'm saying.
So this timeline is based off of the direction that you all gave us the last meeting on July 1st. It is extraordinarily crunched. I will be honest with you about that. And we don't have sufficient resources, which is why we would ask for, an amendment to the budget in order to do this, to get ourselves some help. It does not, you'll look at the timeline there, it does not give you very much time, frankly, to get the feedback from your businesses. So if we're sending things out, we'll start working on this, to get it out by the end of next week to all of our business license holders. It doesn't, and then if they're going to come back on March 17th, that doesn't give them a whole lot of time. We put both dates up there. I would recommend actually the April 1st date, so that you do have more time for people to come forward. But what that does is going to back up the other the city attorney's times to actually craft the ordinance, which I will have to refer to.
Are you really serious? You want to have this on April Fool's Day? I'd be against that.
And so Miss
13th and April Fool's Day. This is what we're doing.
Mr. Gina can speak to whether or not that gives the city attorney's office sufficient time to put things out there. But yeah.
Right. So, and this is an aggressive timeline, and so the amount of time that we'll need to incorporate all it's a little hard to say, because we don't know what the feedback from the community is going to be, nor do we know what the direction from the city council is going to be based on that initial based on either the March 17th or the April 1 your feedback that you receive. We will be crunched in terms of being able to turn around a draft that meets all of those expectations, and what that will mean is that other projects that are in our pipeline will be pushed off and will be put on hold while we focus on this. And so the direction, part of the direction that we're looking for from the council that's implicit in this is that if this is the priority that you are, if this is a priority for the council, for the city attorney's office as well as the rest of the city manager's office to focus on, then there should be we also would like to emphasize that other projects that we have will be delayed coming to you.
Yeah, I think, Nora, that what you're talking about checking in with staff is really good practice, and that we should do it every step of the way and allow for staff to give us this kind of feedback and be honest with us about where we are.
We have to be realistic. We have a wonderful staff, very professional, very accomplished. The one problem is they don't know how to say no. They don't know how to say, you want to do this by July 1st? Are you people out of your minds? If you want a reasoned, really thought about, really chewed up ordinance that people are able to punch into and really talk about, you're suggesting a timeline here that's compressing everything and not really, I believe, allowing for real consideration, real information, real back and forth discussion. February, as far as I'm concerned, we're already in June. So I just wanted to bring that up. You have clear direction for 3 members of the council, but I do not believe this timeline serves either the staff, the council, or the people of this city, or the businesses in this city.
Well, and I'm also interested in finding out how much business feedback we get. I thought the chambers was going to be more full this evening. Well,
Jackie, you do understand. I have talked to many small businesses, and they do not want to come forward.
I understand
They don't want to
that.
go on record. They're afraid of the Yelp comments. Oh, you're against minimum
and I
wage.
understand that.
And they're not going to put their business at risk like that.
Right, but this is also a time for us to sit up here and remind everybody that one of the things that I take very seriously is that I will sit down with you and I will talk with you. I'm going to be doing this work along this compressed timeline as well. But I think moving along and finding out what we get to on April 1st in terms of community input, it's each one of these dates is a point at which we can check in.
Right. That was the other thing I was going to throw out there, is that when we have either the meeting on March 17th or April 1st, we could certainly, we'll have more information and we can check back in with you. And if we, if our recommendation is to push out the timeline in order to account for the information that we've received and the feedback that we're getting from you folks, that's the message I'm hearing. Yeah. So I see that as an opportunity to check in with you and provide you with perhaps adjustments to that time frame.
Yeah.
Guys, let me make one more pitch. Symbolically, I think it is a big mistake to have this on April 1st, and I'm not kidding. I'm really not
Really?
kidding.
Really?
No, I'm not. What can I say?
I mean, we're having a meeting on April 1st, right? I mean, we'll be here, right? Isn't that our regular council meeting?
It doesn't rise to the level of this particular issue.
Actually, the first meeting in April is on the 7th.
Is on
April-
what?
7th.
We're all,
April
then we're
1st
all
is
clear.
April 1st is a Wednesday.
There we
No
go.
April Fools. Is that correct?
We're off the hook, guys.
She said, she,
Oh, it's a typo. Okay, well, there you go. It's just a
Problem solved.
typo.
It's all done.
we just spot 6 days.
All right, Michelle, do you have everything you need?
Black cats walking under ladders. Oh.
Are you sure?
I believe so.
Oh, and the enforcement, in-house enforcement, if you're okay
agree
with
with
us
Scott.
keeping that
Yeah.
in the way that
When you
we've written
say
it.
in-house enforcement, what you mean is we're not going to go with either Berkeley or Oakland to enforce, that we are either going to hire someone or we're going to have a contractor do it.
Right.
I want to make that clear, that
Correct.
in-house enforcement,
Yes.
it's the choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the final question was if there were any other changes or revisions to the draft
I think
ordinance,
we went through them all.
other than the ones that were brought up by staff.
Let me
Well,
second Joyce Jacobs, and you guys did a wonderful job. Good, clear, concise
It
presentation.
was a great staff report to read. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Very good, very good, very good. All right, we're moving along to the next item.